Tesla CEO Elon Musk says he opposes U.S. tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Yahoo Finance spoke exclusively with President Biden after the announcement to raise the tariff from 25% to 100%. And this is what POTUS had to say.
If we allow them to continue what they're doing, to flood the market with EVs that are incredibly cheap, they're not making any money on them, deliberately doing it to put other people out of business.
For more on this, Yahoo Finance's very own Akiko Fujita is here. Hey, Akiko.
Hey there, Brad. Well, those comments from Elon Musk came at a tech conference over in Paris, and specifically he said he was surprised when the U.S. made this announcement, saying that things that inhibit freedom of exchange or distort the market are not good. Now, it marked a bit of a shift in tone from Musk's comments back in January. Remember, back then, he argued that tariffs were necessary, saying that without them, Chinese car makers would demolish, in his words, most other car companies in the world. Now, all of this stems from concerns about cheap Chinese vehicles flooding global markets, squeezing out competitors. While China does remain the largest EV market, Chinese car makers have increasingly been making pushes into new countries as their home market slows down, and they've been making inroads, particularly in Europe. They increased their market share over in the EU to 20% of the European EV market last year. That was up from 16% the previous year. And they did that largely by price, with Chinese car makers commanding a 30% cost advantage over European rivals. Now you've got the European Commission considering tariffs on Chinese car imports that by some estimates can range from 15 to 20%. The Rhodium Group put out a study estimating that tariffs would need to be as high as 55% to curb imports. And the concern is something similar could happen here in the U.S. as well. Now, Elon Musk saying he doesn't necessarily want tariffs. That's something we've heard from other car CEOs as well. Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares saying that tariffs aren't necessarily the answer because car makers compete in a global market. Just a few days ago, he was interviewed by Reuters saying that he believes these tariffs are, in his words, a major trap for the countries that go on that path, and that ultimately Western car makers would need to find a way to restructure to be able to meet the challenge from lower-cost Chinese manufacturers. Specifically, Tavares said, when you fight against the competition to absorb 30% of cost competitiveness edge in favor of the Chinese, there are social consequences. The bottom line is this, guys. When you think about what Chinese cars or Chinese EVs are selling for, you've got a price tag of roughly $10,000 if you look at something like BYD Seagull. Even with the tariffs, they can still be cost competitive. So that's exactly what those, like Elon Musk potentially, but especially Stellantis' CEO has been hitting on, saying you've got to have a restructuring, really rethink about how these car companies are structured, because the Chinese car makers are going to continue to make a push into new markets. They will have to go head to head with them at these very low price points, regardless of where those tariffs land.